just yesterday we were talking, and he was telling me that he spends $50,000 a month minimum on ads. So it's 50 grand and up. And I'm like, wow. When I talk to new artists and I tell them that I can't do this meaning monetize and build an artist beyond break even, right? I can't do it for less than $150,000 all in. So when I heard him throw out the number of 50,000 a month minimum just for his ads, that's not influencer marketing, that's not shooting the content, that's just an ad budget. I'm like, wow, this shit really is expensive.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Indie Unplugged. I, of course, am Vaughan.
I'm Brian Onrea.
And we got an amazing guest today.
Absolutely.
Let me take a moment before we even switch over and introduce our guest for today. So our guest, Wendy Day, is a renowned music industry consultant, author, and advocate, best known for founding the Rap Coalition in 1992, a nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering hip-hop artists and ensuring they receive fair treatment within the music industry. Wendy has dedicated her career to helping hip-hop artists navigate the often treacherous waters of the music industry. She has brokered some of the most legendary deals in hip-hop, including Cash Money Records' groundbreaking $30 million deal with Universal and Twista's game-changing venture with Atlantic Records. Wendy's influence has touched artists such as Eminem, Master P, Lil Wayne, David Banner, and so many more. Her passion for empowering artists extends way beyond just deal making, as she continues to educate, mentor, and consult through her company, Power Moves. Wendy is a true champion for artist independence. She has been a driving force behind the success of independent labels and the reshaping of the urban music landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, let us give a warm welcome to Wendy Day.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We're happy to have you.
Absolutely.
For sure. Okay, so before we get started, Beta seems like a weekly occurrence.
Mm-hmm.
Can we just pause just for a moment, Wendy, before we
For the
even
passing.
interview? Yes.
Isn't it sad that I know what you meant? You
Yeah.
didn't even have to say it. I knew where you were going with it. I've lost 9 people since May. 9.
Wow.
More than COVID.
Wow.
Please continue.
Yeah, no, I've never personally met Chubby Baby. I just know of him from many people that I know that
Yeah.
have spoken so many great things about him. And we were in the process of having the conversation of him coming on to the Indie Unplugged. And it's
Wow.
just, wow, it's just so heartbreaking. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why I said it seems like it's a weekly thing, because we talked about something last week, of somebody passing last week, and then we talked about Tito's, and we talked about somebody before that, and it was just Jay Hatch, and it was just like week after week,
Yeah.
week. I'm just like, oh my gosh,
Clark Kent. Don't forget Clark.
DJ Clark Kent.
Absolutely.
Right, I'm just like, oh
Mhm.
man, it's just so, and I get it, right? Not to start off on a somber note, but I just want to pay homage to Chubby. He's an amazing person. Once again, I never had a chance to meet him, but the stories that I've heard and the people that I'm connected with, just from what I understand, he's a beautiful person. So
Yeah.
great heart,
Very caring, very loving.
very caring, very loving. But once again, Wendy, we're glad to have you.
So happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm actually going to kick it over to Brian to have us kind of start this whole thing off. And we got a lot of questions. We got a lot of questions to ask.
Awesome. Let's go.
Hope you got some
Brian.
Hope you got some time.
Well,
'cause we got a lot of.
Well, for independent artists, like, marketing is the big thing. Marketing is so important, and you've got varying degrees of marketing. The first thing I want to ask you to do, because I was doing more research, even though I've interviewed you twice before, I'm still doing more research to find out more about your story. You have a background as far as your education in marketing.
I do.
many,
Mhm.
and I've the same with me. I have a bachelor's degree from Michigan in marketing. 20,
Okay.
20 years ago though, and I remember getting into the music industry years ago, thinking I'm going to take my education and bring it. And I've learned over the years that you got to adapt. You got to because marketing in 2002 when I graduated from college is way different in 2024.
A different.
So from your perspective, having I think you had a graduate degree in marketing, I believe.
I do have an MBA.
Right. How have you adapted with the times to educate yourself and learn marketing, over the years? Because you've been at it, you're triple OG.
32.
Yeah, triple OG. So how have you over the years adapted and stayed current with marketing trends and music?
And I think everybody has to do that because it changes so fast. Like when I got my MBA, there was no internet. It just wasn't there, you know? When you got your undergrad degree, I don't think social media was around yet, was it?
Nope.
Maybe MySpace, maybe, but
Mhm.
certainly not TikTok or Twitter or Instagram, and that's everything today,
Right.
for start a new artist, the growth of their career. It's important to stay on top of everything. I think what school teaches us, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they teach us to learn whether we like it enough to do it for a living or not.
Mm,
I feel like I got basics, I got statistics, I got economics. So I understand the basics of how this works. I got the basics of research, although the way that we do market research today is completely different than anything I learned. But it taught me that I like it, and it taught me that I wanna go direct to consumer no matter what I'm doing, right?
right.
And that's kind of what I do in the music industry. I figure out who is the artist's target market,
Mhm.
where do they live, where do they hang out, what do they like, are they male? Are they female? Are they educated? Are they not educated? Do they have jobs? Do they smoke weed? Do they not smoke weed? Do they drink? Like, who are they? What do they do? How do they survive? And then once we know who they are, where they are, and what they do, then we figure out ways to reach them without ramming the music down their throats. We figure out a way to be somewhat unobtrusive and deliver the story of the artist, because today you've got to like the artist before you go listen to their music.
Yep.
And it wasn't like that in the '90s when I was coming up, I used to listen to artists, and if I liked the music, then I would go find out more about them. And today it's the exact opposite. Somebody has to really know who you are, what you stand for, what you think. Are you authentic? How do you spend your time? What are your hobbies? What are your political affiliations? Do you smoke weed? Do you not smoke weed? What do you do? Are you married? Are you single? They wanna know all that stuff, and then once they like who you are and what you represent, then they'll check out your music. So, I find that when we market artists in 2024 and what we'll do going into 2025 is we're gonna tell their story and then let the fans discover the music on their own.
That's
Mm.
good. That's
Mhm.
that's real good.
Yeah, I mean, because when you sit back and think about it, marketing back in the day is completely different than it is today. And
Completely.
like, what does an independent artist have to do, producer? How do they really encapsulate those marketing strategies in order
Yeah,
to really get that exposure that they're looking for, right?
to
To
succeed.
bring
Yeah,
eyes to their music, to bring eyes to them as an artist, and to understand that their brand, and how do they go through that? It's 100% completely different.
it is. Well, the
And
first thing they have to do is figure out what is their brand. What's their image? What's their brand? And in a way, it's so easy when it's a street artist because you kind of know what the brand is. It's a hustler, it's entrepreneurial.
right.
But when it's not a street artist, it gets a little bit deeper and a little bit more difficult because how are you going to stand out? What do you stand for? why should somebody listen to your music? And then you need to look at all of the research on all of your platforms, from YouTube to SoundCloud to Spotify to Apple to Amazon, and as well as your social media platforms, and figure out, okay, who is checking me out? Who is listening to me? Who likes my music? And
Mhm.
what do they all have in common? And then where do they hang out? Are they gamers and they hang out at Twitch? Are they mostly women and they're at Pinterest? Are they young and they're at Snap? Are they into more video type content and they hang out at YouTube and they prefer reels and stories? Or are they more like photo people and they want Facebook and Instagram? So you really need to figure out who your audience is so you know how to reach them. And then once you know how to reach them, you can start running awareness ads and you can start building in ways to monetize yourself other than just streams. I mean, streams are important too, but one of the things that we do really early at Power Moves is set up the merch site, and we attach it to their website, because everybody has somebody that's willing to buy a t-shirt or a hat or a water bottle or whatever your brand requires that you
Mm.
have.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. Now
Right.
you talked about running ads, right? And that's very, very important, which leads to my next question, the follow-up question to my first question. You know, you can either like hire someone, and we'll get into later like budgets and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and what it takes, but we talk about DIY a lot, do it yourself a lot. And in order to do it yourself, you gotta be educated. And I
Yes,
want your take on courses, because you can take a course and learn how to run ads on Facebook,
Mhm.
learn how to and how to target properly. But to me, there's so much finessing out here. How does an independent like know who to buy a course from? Like
exactly.
be-
Exactly. I know, I get it. I get it.
everybody asks,
Um, I can only tell you what I did, and I have staff that do this for a living, right? So I don't place ads, but when I first started, I realized in order to know who to hire and how to measure their success, I had to know something about placing ads, right? I had to know the difference between a discovery ad and an ad that's going to somebody to build awareness
Mm.
on merch, or I needed to know the difference between a Spotify ad and a YouTube ad or a TikTok ad or an Instagram ad. So what I did was I joined Indiepreneur. I think they offer a really great program on how to be an independent artist and be successful. And then in addition to that, because I'm an overachiever and it's just who I am, I went and learned from Meta how to run ads. I went to YouTube University, but I wanted to learn how the platforms were teaching people to run ads, to sort of add to my education at Indiepreneur. And then I started talking to artists that were doing this heavily. La Russell is somebody that I talk to quite a bit about how, he does what he does, because I love what he's doing. And just yesterday we were talking, and he was telling me that he spends $50,000 a month minimum on ads. So it's 50 grand and up. And I'm like, wow. When I talk to new artists and I tell them that I can't do this, meaning monetize and build an artist beyond break even, right? I can't do it for less than $150,000 all in. So when I heard him throw out the number of 50,000 a month minimum just for his ads, that's not influencer marketing, that's not shooting the content, that's just an ad budget. I'm like, wow, this shit really is expensive.
Yeah.
Now he's grown, like he's
right,
Right.
pretty far above where most people watching this would be. So
Right.
it doesn't mean you have to come out of the gate spending 50 grand a month, but just know that you're going to get there. If you're doing this for a living and you've got music that's reacting and resonating with fans, you're going to be putting your money back into this so that you can grow as quickly as possible. And by quickly, I mean like anywhere from 2 to 10 years. I don't mean quickly like 2 months or 6 months. This takes a really long time.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what people think. I think they like, oh, I'm gonna get into the game and like, hey, boom, guess what? 2 months now, I'm gonna be
No,
pop. It's like, oh,
no.
this is a long game.
It
I
is a
think.
long game. I remember working with Trouble, and Trouble was very popular in Atlanta on the streets. So I thought, oh, this is going to be a slam dunk. This is going to be easy. It took me 4 years to get him to the point where he was making $100,000 a month in income. You
Wow.
know, it's not a fast grind, and that's somebody that made music that resonated. We had 3 hits back to back. We put out Ready, we put out Thief in the Night, and then we put out Key to the Streets. Key to the Streets was actually YFN Lucci.
Hmm.
He just featured Trouble on it, which was a blessing. But all that to say, like, with 3 hit records and being known and loved on the streets because he was Trouble Trouble, it
Mm,
took a little over 4 years to the point where Interscope signed him. And that
wow.
was his goal, by the way, was to get signed. That's
Mhm.
never my goal, just to make it really clear. I'm a huge fan of staying independent.
Mm. I mean, yeah. Wow. So, okay. So, what do you think contributed to that? What do you think contributed to, or what was that process? I guess that's the question on that. What was that process like within those 4 years to get him to that particular
And
point?
rest in peace, Trouble too, man.
Yeah.
Well, it
Man,
was it was it was different then than now, so can
Mm,
I update the example a little bit? Because what I don't wanna do is tell you how I did it 4 years ago, or God, longer ago than that. That was I stopped working with him in 2017, so that was 7 years ago. So
mm.
it's way different
Wait,
today. So let me tell you how I do it today,
sure, of
because I
course.
don't want somebody to have old information and try it and then be like, "Oh, it didn't work." Of course it's not gonna work, it's ancient. 7 years ago is I was riding my dinosaur 7 years ago. But because it's so oversaturated out here, and the fastest way and most productive way to build a fan base is through consistency. So I have my clients dropping music every other week in today's marketplace. So they'll drop music on whatever day we choose. Let's just say Wednesday, and I'm going to pretend that I'm the artist, although I have no talent whatsoever, and God help us all if I'm rapping. But let's just say it's Wendy Wednesdays. So my hashtag is Wendy Wednesdays, and every Wednesday I'm going to drop something. So the first Wednesday I'm going to drop a song. Then the next Wednesday, my marketplace is a little bit older, so I'm going to drop a music video because my market still watches videos. If I were younger, like 18, 19, 20, 21, I would not have music videos. I would just drop
Mm,
extended content. And by the way, in addition to my music videos, I'm still going to drop content every day. So I've got content coming every day on every platform as Wendy the Scary Rapper. So the third Wednesday, I'm dropping my second song. The fourth Wednesday, I'm dropping a cheap music video to that song. The fifth Wednesday, I'm dropping my third song. So I'm doing song, video, song, video, song, video, song, video. And I'm doing that for like 2 years, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm doing it until something catches. Before I do that, I'm going to test my music. So I'm dropping 26 songs a year, right? Because I'm dropping every other week. So I want to make sure that my music is resonating with the fans. I'm going to test them 5 or 6 songs at a time. So for 2 weeks, I'm going to put $100 on each song. I'm going to make 5 or 6 cheap videos just on my iPhone. And it's going to be me rapping. And it makes me laugh every time I say this. I know it's just an example, but that's just so scary. It's me it's me rapping along to one of my songs in the studio, and I'm shooting 5 or 6 videos that are the same, but the song is different. I'm putting $100 behind each one for 2 weeks, and I'm out there running them. After 2 weeks, I'm gonna pull them all down. Because of my age, I'm either gonna run them on Facebook or I'm gonna run them on Instagram. If I were younger, I might run them on TikTok to see what the response would be, but Instagram works great. So let's just use Instagram as my example. I've now got 5 or 6 songs that I've run ads on. I'm going to go in on the back end, and I'm going to look and see on each song who has stayed longer than 50% of the time, who stayed longer than 75% and 95%. And then I'm going to I'm going to rank them in order of people that stayed the longest to the people that stayed the shortest, and that tells me my release order. So I'm going to put my strongest song out first. I'm going to put a little bit of a budget behind that. I'm going to advertise my song. I'm going to advertise my video. I'm going to advertise my um user generated content, the stuff that I'm doing to promote it. And in that stuff, I'm talking about why I made that song. I'm talking about why I love hip hop. I'm talking about my little dog or whoever I'm dating or my hobbies. I'm talking about me and I'm being vulnerable so people get to know me. Now I'm going into my dashboard and I'm seeing of my content what is reacting the best. And I'm going to put an ad budget behind the stuff that's reacting the best. I heard LaRussell said last night to me that he looks for anything that's reaching 40% of his audience or more. That's really high for my clients. When we drop a reel or we
Mhm.
put something on TikTok, we're not usually hitting 4% of the marketplace, 40% of the marketplace. I don't know what we're hitting, but it sure ain't that.
Mm.
So I look and see, okay, what's doing the best? Okay, maybe it's a Facebook post or maybe it's a TikTok. I'm going to put a little bit of budget behind everything that's kind of sort of doing well. And I'm judging that by my gut. I'm judging that just based on my experience and knowing when something's reacting and when it's not. And I know what is because I've been doing this a while. So it's sort of just my gut reaction. I spend a little bit of money. If it does well and it starts reacting more, I'm going to spend a little bit of more money. I'm driving my fans to either Spotify or Apple, or maybe I'm driving them to YouTube. Maybe I'm driving them to my merch site on my website. Maybe I'm driving them to a landing page to collect their email address because I'm trying to build an email list. I'm doing all of this simultaneously, but it's not random. I have a reason for what I'm doing and I'm measuring everything that I'm doing. In some cases, I'm A/B testing, which means I'm running two different ads that are driving people to the same place. I'm looking to see which one is doing better. Maybe the headline in video A is doing better than the headline in video B. So now I take all the money that was on video B and I put it into video A. But at all times, I'm testing and I'm doing more of what works and less of what doesn't.
Mm. Yeah. Okay, look, that's all game.
It is.
That's so
It,
crazy.
I
no,
hope people take notes because
Yeah,
like
I hope that's
folks pay me $100,000 for this
right.
info.
She just gave y'all. You're about to take notes.
yeah, I want to follow up on that again though because I had this question now. You mentioned LaRussell.
Please.
One quote I heard from LaRussell is your job should be your first investor, right? Now we're real big in the DIY on the Indie Unplugged. Do it
Mhm.
yourself. So and I know it's gonna be a tough question to answer, but to make it more practical, is there like a minimum amount monthly somebody should have? Even let's say Joe
It's
Smo.
not tough to answer. It's just sad.
Let's say
It's
somebody
real easy to answer.
working a 9 to 5, they got dreams that they want to get started. What's like just a minimum amount you would think on a monthly basis
Right.
somebody should have?
Every month, and I've been doing this for 32 years, so I have tried to do this with no money. And if there was a way, I would have figured it out by now. Because if I could do this without artists having money and all they had to do was pay me to learn how to do it with no
Mm.
money, I'd be on an island and I would have flown you guys in on my jet so that we could talk, right? But it's not like that, unfortunately. I can't do this for less than $150,000, and I don't mean my fee. That's without my fee. That's just the budget to market and promote, and that's not even a recording budget. That's just the marketing and promotion that it takes, and it takes anywhere from I've done this as fast as 11 months, and the longest it's ever taken me is 4 years. But that 150 gets spent roughly in about a year-ish, like 12 to 14 months, and by then there's money coming back into your company or your brand, and then you're investing that money back in. So, for example, I'm gonna come back to Trouble even though it was 7 years ago. And the only reason I know this is because I'm writing a white paper on the financials of how we broke him, right? So we ended up spending $322,000 to get trouble to the point where he could garner a deal with Interscope or any label, right? But of that 322,000, 150,000 of it was invested money from Trouble's investor, who was a guy in Chicago. I know people think it was duct tape. It was not. It was actually a gentleman in Chicago that believed in him enough to put up that 150 so that we could get him to the next level, to the point where they could move forward. So when LaRussell says your number one job, if you're going to take this seriously, is absolutely to find an investor. And to make this really, really clear and drive the point home, I set up a community for artists it's a paid community for artists in July. And the first thing that we did, well, the first thing that I did was get them used to me for the first month. I didn't want to just come in and just, freak them out all at once the first 30 days. But the first thing we did was we put together a business plan so that the artists could figure out, okay, what do I want to do? What is it going to cost me? Where am I going to spend that money? How am I going to spend that money? Let me put it into a business plan. Let me figure out the financials of it. And now let me start taking this business plan around to investors so that I can find somebody to fund my career, because I know that I personally know that you cannot do this for less than 150,000. And the people that argue with me and say that you can are the people that have never done this. Because if there was a way to do this for less, I
It was
promise you I would have figured it out.
exactly.
And that's including working Little Donald, who had a hit record. It still took us 125,000 to get money coming back into his company, enough to start investing more and make him a multimillionaire.
Wow. That's
You got to count the cost, you know.
you gotta count the cost. I mean, but see,
Yeah.
that's why I'm so big on the business side, right? I mean, we talk about my background often, but that's why I'm always big about the business side. Understanding the business, right? Understanding things like business plans and uh how that even to the point of actually crafting a business plan. Like
Yeah.
most artists go, okay, when do I make music?
Right.
I want to do that. I want to
It's
make
so much more. It's
it's so,
so much more today.
it's so
It's,
much.
people used to say to me in the 90s, I just want to record and perform. And even back then, it was so much more. And today, if you can't shoot content and if you can't run your own business, I don't know what to tell you, because even the labels sign artists like LaRussell. They want to sign the artists that are moving and growing and are showing them that the risk in investing in them is not substantial.
Right.
Nobody wants to invest in somebody and take a huge risk anymore. You can
No,
lose millions of dollars doing this,
you can. Like I like the fact
and
that
quick.
oh, you want to say something? I can see it. Hold on. I like the fact that having an investor, right? Because we talked about that, often is whether it's the investor is your job, but I love the fact of having and crafting a business plan and then taking that business plan or like a pitch deck, right? Like when you do like cinematography and all that stuff, you want to
Yes,
for your projects and things that you worked on, you create a pitch deck. So like creating a pitch
yes,
deck and then taking that pitch deck to those potential investors
investor.
and talking about, what that looks like, how their investment is going to
How
assist
they're
in it,
going to get their money back.
and how that's the most right. That's the most important. How you going to get your
Yeah,
money back, right? Because
yes.
I just want to know that how you going to get that money back.
Yes,
Um,
because there's a lot of people that really wanna be in the music business, and I've been working with artists that have investors since 1997, so a long time, right?
mhm.
And I've noticed that the amount of people that come to me and want to hire me is insane. I've never advertised. I rarely talk about what I do. So many people will see me at a party and go, "Mm, I see you everywhere. What is it that you do? You teach rappers, right?" Yeah, that's what I do. I teach rappers. But I meet with probably 10 to 30 people a month that wanna hire me that have the budgets to do this. There are people out there that can afford to do this that I pass on because either they don't have the work ethic or they don't have the music to be for me to be able, and it doesn't mean they're bad necessarily. They might be making music that's such a small niche that I know that I can't help them generate millions of dollars. And
Mhm.
if I'm going to do this, I want to do this big. I don't want to do this small. So that's like my own issue. It has nothing to do with their talent. And then again, there's people that come to me that should not be rapping. Like I can rap better. And we've already talked about how bad I am. Right.
All right.
So there are investors out there. I think it's easier to find an investor than it is to find a record deal. And I think it's been that way for a very long time. So when people tell me they can't find an investor, what I hear is that you don't want to. You don't want to put the time into seeing if you can or you can't. Because my next question is always going to be, well, where did you look? How many people did you talk to? Because you might have to talk to 100 people to find one person that can put up the money, or two people, or maybe you need three investors to come together to invest in you. But if you've talked to 5 people or 10 people, yeah, you probably haven't found an investor.
Right.
What I want to follow up with that question though, because can you work your way to that? Because in the LaRussell example, what he's talking about, he's saying literally you go to work every day and that is your investor, your 9 to 5 job. Now,
Okay.
$150,000 over a year is $12,000 a month, $12,500 a month. So obviously, like if you're working a 9 to 5, and unless you live with your parents who you don't got to pay anything to, it's gonna be hard to get that kind of money from a 9 to 5.
Even still, you're probably not. Yeah, even still,
Yeah,
it's yeah, that's an impressive salary, right?
Right,
that's an
right.
impressive. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know people
Yeah,
who actually make.
you're a coder. If you're making a buck
Oh,
50 a year and you're living with your parents, you're a coder, right? Or you're doing something illegal, one or
So
the other.
right.
while you're working your way to find an investor to give you that 150 grand, are there things you can do as an
Yes,
independent to work your
you
way
have
there?
to. Yes. You have to put music out and you have to market and promote it, because if somebody's going to invest in you and they look in at what you're doing and they see that you've got, 300 followers on Instagram and you've got no music on Spotify and your SoundCloud is, crickets, it's going to be really hard for them to choose to invest in you, because when they look at other artists that are seeking investment, those other artists might have 10,000 or 20,000 legitimate followers. Um, they might have 1,000,000 views on TikTok. They might have a SoundCloud of people that are actually commenting. And I don't mean bots. I don't mean the bullshit. I mean the real stuff. You
Right.
know, the bullshit doesn't help anybody. It I know artists do it because their attitude is, well, if I don't have a lot of followers, people aren't going to look at me. Well, if you have a lot of fake followers, what's going to happen is you're going to screw up your algorithm. So
Mm-hmm.
no real people are going to see you.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Like,
problem.
That is a problem.
Not
I
yeah.
mean, people want visibility
it.
so bad that they're willing to actually go out and pay for fake.
Yes.
Right. I'm not gonna.
Yes.
I know
I
the
don't
dude
even
got
I don't even think it's visibility, to be honest with you. I think it's just self-flagellation.
it
I
probably.
think it's vanity metrics. I think they want to feel like 1,000,000 people
Mhm.
love them. So they're gonna go buy 1,000,000 blank faces based in Indonesia or Brazil to follow them so that they feel like they're doing something. You can't buy this. I've
Yeah.
tried.
Yeah. And I think that's it. I think it's a vanity. I think it's that. Look at me. I got a million. They want to see me, right? And it's but
Yes.
they're fake. Like you can't.
Yes, I wanna feel good about myself, so I'm gonna have high numbers. The problem is when you buy high numbers and you start to do this for real and put music out, they're not real, so nobody's seeing it. You're putting music into the void and
Mm,
nobody's seeing it. Now you think you're whack because nobody's seeing your music. And the reality is it's because you screwed up your algorithm on whatever platform you faked.
mm. You know,
Fake
I
shit ne
no. Go ahead, Wendy.
fake shit never works.
It
Can I
never.
curse? Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Yeah, fake
Yeah,
shit never works.
never. So okay, so I think that goes back to your question about finessing,
Yeah.
right? Because I can Google how to find a business plan, but how do I know this business plan has all of the necessary things within it, the components that make up a well drafted business plan that's going to get me to an investor? I mean, you can YouTube University literally almost any and everything, right? You can find a course on almost any and everything.
Yes.
Yo, you can create a course in Chat GPT and you can sound
Yes.
you can sound like you mad knowledgeable about that
Yeah.
topic, and you're really not. Because Chat GPT can they can design
Make it
anything.
seem legit,
They
right?
can make you seem legit. They could, but see, here's the thing,
Absolutely.
people like, but you can use that as a tool because that's what it is. It is a tool, and
Yes.
use it, and they try to make themselves seem like they are credible when it's the AI thing that's doing it. And then when they actually have to go speak to people, it doesn't translate. Like there's no
Right.
translation between what you've been doing behind the scenes on with your AI stuff and when you're actually meeting people. That goes to the whole finessing thing. Because I
Yes.
put up a course today, right now. But see, I have actual credibility from my actual day job that I do, right? I've been doing for 26 plus years. I can actually do a course on leadership development because I taught it to so many CEOs of Fortune 100, Fortune 50 companies. I can do that. I have credibility to do that. A Joe Schmo person can do it. Use ChatGPT to do the same thing, or any other type of generative AI, and charge you however much money.
Yes.
Take my business plan,
Yes.
my marketing
Well,
course.
there are courses on how to run Facebook ads. There are courses on how to like grow your Instagram
Right,
following,
right,
and it's like, it seems like a lot of finesse out there
right.
because if you pay all
It
this
is.
It is.
and they give you
Oh
these
yeah.
fake followers, you pay all
Oh
this
yeah.
money, and your ads aren't working. So how do you measure like where to go spend your money when you buy? Because it is cool that you can buy courses on stuff
Hmm.
in these days, but
Well, I think you go to the source, right? You go to YouTube to learn how to do best practices at
on
YouTube. You go to TikTok to learn what are the best practices at TikTok. Every platform that we use in music teaches you. They have a section where you can go to learn. It may not be as in depth as you want it to, but the ones that really matter are like Facebook and Instagram. Like Meta teaches you how to run ads.
Right. Yeah. No.
that's good.
That's
So
fact.
why go to Joe Blow School of Ads when you can go to the source and learn? And then once you have a little bit of knowledge, you're going to be able to see the fakes. You're going to be able to see through the cap. It's kind of what I did in order to hire people to work for me. I had to learn enough about ads so that when I'm in an interview and they're explaining to me what they do, that I actually understand it. It's
Right.
it's important.
Right. Right.
And it's one of my biggest complaints about the music industry right now, and it's why I give so much free information away on the internet, free, because there's so many people that are like my peers and in my circle even, who haven't really done this for a living, but are teaching people how to do it based on talking to people that have done it, or AI or whatever. And it's not always accurate. The reason in 2016 I started making videos and posting them for free every other day on YouTube, because one guy that I know in the music industry made a video telling people that they didn't have to copyright their music. And I thought that was so egregious because it's such bad, bad, bad information. At first, I thought, we don't copyright everything that we do, but we certainly copyright all the music that we put out into the marketplace. And he
Absolutely.
was saying, no, you don't have to do that. And then he went on to say, if you are going to do it, put it in an envelope, mail it to yourself, sign your name across the back flap. But what he wasn't saying, he didn't take it the extra step and say, that really does work. If you steal my song and I can prove by this envelope that came back to me in the mail that was postmarked with a certain date that has never been opened, I can absolutely prove that I own it, but all I can do is make you take it down. I can't get my legal fees back. I can't sue you for any damage that was done by you stealing my song. Like, I'm fucked.
Right.
And what's the point of of just having somebody take it down. You need to be able to get back. It could cost you $12,000 to make somebody take a song down that doesn't belong to them. Why should I have to pay for that because somebody stole my song?
That's right.
But if I don't have a copyright, I
I mean,
can't get my money through.
copyrights are cheap. Copyrights are cheap, right? I mean, I don't know how much people think copyrights actually cost, but they not expensive.
They're $85 right
You can
now.
go to USPTO,
And
copyright.
and I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I don't copyright just one song at a time. I'll send in 5 songs for $85. Now it just became really affordable.
Yeah, no, that's what I
And
was gonna.
I only copyright what we release. If I have 60 songs, I don't copyright all 60 songs. If I'm gonna put 5 out, I copyright 5. When I do the next 5, I copyright those 5.
Right.
When I do the next 5, I copyright those 5.
Yeah, no, that's what I was gonna say right there, Wendy. Is that you don't have to do it one at a time. You can
No,
whatever you're gonna put out because
no.
you can do it right on the website, and you can upload
Yes,
actually the files directly to the
yes,
website right there,
yeah.
and they give you your once they go through the process, they give you the documentation that these things are copywritten, blah blah. Blah. But it's that's the thing, it's cheap. It's not a lot of money, but people
Well,
think it may be a lot of
it's
money.
it's cheap if somebody steals your song and you have to use it. It's real cheap. It's the cheapest thing you've ever bought. But if you it's sort of like insurance. I have health insurance and I think I pay close to $400 a month. And if I don't use it in a year, that was a lot of money to pay to
Right,
just have peace of mind, right? But if I'm in an accident and all of a sudden I'm getting billed for close to $100,000 and I don't have to pay it, I only have to pay a percentage of it because I have insurance. That's the cheapest $400 I ever spent every month. So it
yes,
really just depends on how you look at it. But we live in a shisty, shady industry, so I'd rather people protect themselves than not, personally.
I think it's peace of mind.
Yeah.
It is
It
peace.
is.
I think understanding the how the business works is peace of mind because
Agreed.
you know that you're covered, you know that you understand whatever the concepts are. You that's a piece of I can go to bed and know. Like
And sleep well.
my wife is real big on copyrights and trademark. Like she'll trademark something in a minute, but like she just trademarked something like think last week. She was like, "Yeah, I just got this trademark." She,
I love
she'll,
it.
she'll go trademark it, and then I
I love
remember
it.
I remember somebody reached out to her and was like, "Hey, I'm a college student. I'm thinking about doing this for as like a class project, and I want to use this, name. I think it was like the name of her company. I want to use this as the name and blah blah blah. Do I have your permission to do it? And blah blah blah." My wife was like, "No, this is trademark. no,
Yeah,
you cannot." And she did it.
yeah, it's my brand.
She tried to do it anyway. She said,
Oh,
"Yeah, yeah, yeah." So my wife's company is called In Her Company, and the lady wanted to use that as part of her project she was doing at her university and it's trademark. And
mm,
my wife was like, "Nah, you can't use that at
no.
all." And she tried. Oh man. She tried. Oh, I sent her a nice little email. Do you before I pursue this, you want to go ahead and do this. And the lady came back and was like, "I apologize." She took it down, whatever. Yeah. Oh, yeah. It is peace of mind. Absolute
It
peace
is
of mind.
fun. I think the legal term for that, what she went through is called "fuck around and find out."
you, get, you got that right.
That's
Are
Right.
funny.
you sure you wanna fuck around and find out?
Are you sure? I don't know if you're sure,
I
but if you do, I,
Because we could do it the easy way, we could do it the hard way. I'll do it either way.
I got time today.
Oh, you had more questions on business? I want to shift to
No, no, go ahead.
the culture talk.
I got all types of questions, but
Well, I want to talk about culture a little bit because we've been talking about culture so
yeah,
much, and I think you are one of the best people to talk about
for
this
sure.
topic because you are very, very well respected. We love you in the culture. You've done so much
Thank
to help the culture. You've been a positive attribute to the culture.
Hmm.
Is that
thank you.
where
I
attribute?
care.
Yeah, you've
Yeah.
been an asset to the culture, and we love you.
Right.
But in 2024, there's so much talk about culture vultures in
Mhm,
industry, particularly from people who aren't African, who aren't black in the culture, exploiting the
mhm.
culture. And I'm not going to name any names, but it's so many out here. How do you navigate, and what would you say to people who aren't black getting into this culture? coming in to be respectful and to not exploit it. Like,
I
'cause
love that you're asking this. So, by the way, this was an issue in 1994 as well. So
Mm.
it's not just a 2024 issue. It's just the internet spreads stuff really fast. But
okay.
it was an issue in the 90s, you know? The bet you're asking me to give advice to like white folk coming into a black culture?
Yeah, because
On
again, I'm not naming names, but I'm thinking
any
in my
culture.
mind about a bunch of them right now that just disrespect the culture, you know?
I
Yeah,
mean, we named a
they're
bunch of
trying to
names.
hit a lick.
We named a bunch of names.
No,
Well, I did.
we're not doing it right
I
now. I'm
did.
just saying, but but I'm just saying, like, what would you say to those coming
I
into the?
I would I would say to be respectful to the culture because this is a culture before it's anything. And I think one of the reasons that I get so much love is because I came to this as a fan. I started listening to rap in 1980. I don't think y'all were born yet, but I started listening
What?
to rap in
Oh no,
1980.
I was born.
You were?
I'm an old man.
I was born.
Oh shit, I didn't.
I was born
Okay.
2 weeks after Rapper's Delight came out,
Okay.
September '79. So
Wow.
yeah,
I'm 74.
Incredible.
I'm 74.
Incredible.
So I'm 50. Y'all know I'm 50. You know, I don't hide that. Y'all know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't
Yeah.
know that. 50 is not old. Well, anyway,
He's not old.
so it's a
He's sitting there.
culture.
right.
It's not the new dope game. It's not something to be pimped out. It's not something where you hit a lick and keep it moving. It's an art form. It's hip hop. It's a culture. So if you're going to come into this world, you really have to learn where it's from, the history. You have to learn all the aspects of hip hop culture. You have to really give a shit about the music. You have to understand the music. And you also have to understand the impact that the music has on people. So I'm not saying that your lyrics have to be squeaky clean. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you're going to make a choice to only talk about negativity, if you're going to make a choice about calling women bitches and hoes, if you're going to make a choice about talking about pop and Percocet, it's going to affect people a certain way. So, and I'm not trying to go down like that negativity path. I'm just trying to say that there's consequence to everything. So, if you treat this like it's not an art form and the culture doesn't matter, you will be taken to task by the people in the culture that really give a fuck about this. It's sort of like going to a football game and disrespecting the team that all the fans are there to see, or disrespecting the culture of football and saying things about football that are negative. When you catch one, you will understand why you caught the beat down, whether it's verbal, whether it's getting canceled, whether it's a punch in the throat, a baseball bat, whatever level of anger somebody chooses to bring, they're bringing it because you were disrespectful to something that they love. And
Mm.
that's never right. It's never right to offend somebody's mother, their wife, their husband, their children, anything that somebody loves as dearly as hip hop, you're going to catch some backlash.
That's
That's what I think.
a
That's a
great
great
example to football
example.
because football games it can
Beautiful
go down.
brother.
You could really get
You
hurt in a
could get.
football game if you
Yes.
pocket.
Oh yeah. If
That's
you
a
out of
great.
pocket.
That's a
You
great
can
example.
get really hurt in hip hop. There are
Oh,
people that have been doing this as long as I have, that when I see in public, I'm extremely disrespectful to them, regardless of the financial wherewithal that they have brought to hip hop.
mhm.
You know, there's certain people that have just pimped this out and taken advantage and not cared about the outcome, and then, you know, moved offshore because they're trying to protect their money from US taxes. It's like they're just always trying to get over. They're always trying to find the loophole. They're always trying to just get by.
Right.
And I don't have patience or understanding for that mentality.
Yeah.
and I'm kind of a bitch about it, to be honest.
And we're seeing it not only in the actual record labels, we're seeing it in media now. That's my biggest gripe, Wendy,
Yeah, media
is the
too.
hip hop media, how people come into the culture and just use us blacks to just get clicks and get YouTube views and get these big deals and very, very exploitive, promoting.
Yes,
And it's just like,
yes,
but
yeah.
it's in the guise of, oh, but I love hip hop, but it's kind of disguised because
Yeah,
really it's
but you don't, not because you love money, really.
exactly.
And I'm thinking of somebody right now, and I'm not gonna call him out,
It's probably the same
but
person.
it's probably the same person you're talking about. But I noticed, when some of the platforms came up in 2011 and 2012, and I saw people that looked like me covering the negative side of people of color. And I always call out World Star on this, which is also at the time was black owned, right?
Yeah.
I had the same issue with Q as white folks doing this. It's like you're you're showing the world a tiny portion of what's going on that happens to be negative, and
Mhm.
you're doing it because you either are clickbait and you want the attention or you want the money. But what you're doing is you're taking a stereotype and you're emphasizing the stereotype. You're blowing that stereotype up. And there are people that aren't in hip hop culture that are now seeing these negative stereotypes and using words like all and every. And that's really a problem because now you're destroying humanity. You're hurting the world. You're making you're making people that don't know any better look in at something and seeing it as negative. So many of the people that I interact with in corporate America, right? They'll say to me, "Oh, rap is violent. Rappers are getting shot and killed in record numbers." And while in a way that's kind of true, it's not like 90% of rappers are getting shot and killed.
Right.
Right.
When you look at the 120,000 uploads to Spotify every day, it's not like a large percentage of those artists are dying. It's not all hip hop, right? It's not like a large percentage of those artists are overdosing on opioids or getting shot and killed in hotel parking lots, or it's just it's what's it's a and it none of it should happen, so please don't say that I'm with this, I'm not. I'm with people that portray the negative and don't introduce any positive in the correct proportion because negative sells and positive doesn't.
Mm,
Yeah.
That's
mm.
my issue.
See, I know you want to say.
No,
I can
I
see.
was just gonna say, I was just gonna thank you. I'm
Yeah,
glad
yeah,
you
yeah.
spoke on that, and I think it's important that the overall culture, hears from someone who's clearly on our side and is clearly an asset
Right,
to the
right.
culture.
And I'm white,
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
white,
Yep.
and I'm in a black art form. I'm female, and I'm in a
That's
male-dominated art form, and
right.
it's really important to understand the culture. I'm a little bit lucky because I have a degree in African American studies. And the reason I have a degree in AFAM studies from an Afrocentric point of view, by the way, is because I really wanted to understand the world that I was coming into in the 1980s. And this is before I worked in music. This is just as a fan of the music.
Okay.
I wanted to understand the struggle, and I wanted to understand, like, back then, and I know I'm kinda dating myself by saying this shit, although it's probably still a problem today. I wanted to understand why I could walk out to the street in New York City on Fifth Avenue, put out my hand to flag down a taxi, and a cab would stop for me, and there could be a black man in front of me, and he could do the same thing, and the taxi wouldn't pick him up, but would stop and pick me up. I
Right.
wanted to know why. Why is that? Because once I know why, we can fix the problem.
Mm,
Once we know what the underlying issue and what's causing that, we can either educate people on why they're wrong and that's not an issue, or we can figure out what the problem is and fix it, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. And if you're not cognizant of that, and if you don't care about that, you shouldn't be in the culture. Stuff
Boom,
stuff like
Get
that.
out. Get
mic
out.
drop.
Get
Yeah.
out.
So
Uh,
Drop.
bravo.
but here's the thing though, right? You said Wendy said something that was crazy important though, is that, and we talked about it in episodes before, is that there are people, regardless of the color of their skin, that participate in culture vulture activities.
Of course, yeah.
Yes,
Thing, right?
yes,
Regardless of their, whatever media
yes,
platform or whatever record label,
yes,
they entertain or are a part of culture vulture activities, right?
yes.
Anytime you take the negative aspects of that culture, and that is the prominence of what you display for everybody to see, you are in culture vulture
Well, yeah, well,
activities.
I've said it
Well,
on.
you're hurting humanity. It's more than the culture. It's like, can I use my mom as an example? My mom has passed, but my mom would see all the negativity. My mom was white. She would see all the negativity around black folk on the news, and she watched the news at noon, 6 and 11 o'clock in Philadelphia, where she lived. So when I told her that I was going to be working with rappers, she was concerned for my safety. I have been in the music industry for 32 years. There is not one time, not one, not one, not one, where I have felt fear. Not one. So here's my mom, and again, she's passed, but here's my mom sitting in her home in the suburbs of Philadelphia, worried about her kid because she sees negativity all the time in what's being fed to her.
Yeah.
So she's got anxiety, she's harping on me. It made Thanksgiving and Christmas just suck because it was always a fight, it was always an argument.
Mm.
She didn't understand why I do what I do. And finally, before she passed away, I got to bring her to a music conference that I did in Philadelphia, where I got to speak to 1,000 people, and she watched what I was doing, and she saw how people reacted to me, and she saw the environment that I was in, and she said to me, "That wasn't scary at all." "No, mom, it
Right.
it's
Yeah,
not. It's
right.
not. You've gotta be open-minded to the world. You've gotta learn diversity. You've gotta interact with people that don't look like you or think like you just because it's the right thing to do,
Right.
you
Absolutely.
know? And I have tremendous disdain for people that don't love people.
Yeah.
Mm.
It's really that simple.
That's why it's so perplexing sometimes for me because I believe that hip hop should be inclusive. Hip hop
Right.
is amazing.
Yes,
We should include everybody, but
Right.
we don't want culture vultures. We don't want nobody in here that's
The exploiters.
right. We don't want
Right.
that at all. But we do want because
it's
it's
bad.
it's a beautiful
It
thing
is bad.
when we can all unite and just be better,
Right.
And that's what hip hop is,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So
I
yeah.
think it's up to each of us to just keep our circle clean. Like if the people that we interact with, and I can sense pretty quickly people that are good people and people that aren't so good. And the great thing about the music industry is people show themselves pretty quickly,
Yep.
regardless of their color, their gender, their religion. Like none of that shit matters. Bad people show themselves pretty quickly,
Hmm.
That's
you
true.
know? And we all kind of know who's good and who's not, and we all talk to each other. I'm sure the people that are in my mind right now, when you said the words culture vulture, I saw 3 people pop
E-
up in my brain, and
Easily.
I am willing to bet you're thinking of the same people as well, you
Hmm.
know? So it's not like it's hidden, it's not like it's not real.
So here's the question
We
then,
all
like,
know.
how do you deal with that then? Like, especially when it's a person that
It's easy to fuck with them. But keep going, keep asking.
had like major influence or they're at a certain level of
I think this question is more for the viewers because who are because again
that's true
our
too.
audience are up and comers trying to make it out here. So it's always that dilemma, when it's time to do business, when it's time to like,
It was never a dilemma for me. It was never a dilemma, but I do realize I march to a different drummer. I am never going to do a deal for an artist with somebody that does not have their best interest at heart. I don't care about the money that's offered. I don't care about the opportunity because I know that at some point they're going to get fucked. And it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it's coming. Somebody that doesn't care about another human being and puts themselves first is always going to eventually turn. It's
Mm,
just human nature. It's just psychology, right?
mhm,
So for me, I was tested real early, by people that wanted to not do what was right for artists, but write me a fat check. Or,
Mhm.
hey, Wendy, we'll sign any one of your friends, bring them through. No,
right.
no, no. So for anybody that's watching this, that's like, okay, I don't want to lose an opportunity. Yeah, you do.
Mm,
Yeah, you do.
yeah.
There were labels when I was shopping any deal, but especially Cash Money, because Cash Money was so hot when I was shopping them. At first they weren't, but once we started putting out music and taking their numbers out of here, it was a bidding war like you can't imagine. It was crazy. And so many people, like lawyers and industry folks, are trying to cut me out so that they could go do the deal and make the money, right? And I remember sitting at a label, and if I tell you what label it is, you're going to be able to figure out who I'm talking about. But it was a very prominent label at the
Mm,
time
mm,
that's no longer prominent today,
yeah.
right? And we sat down, I was dealing with presidents. That's how hot Cash
Right.
Money was. And we were sitting in front of him and he was arguing why we should be at this label. And I'm sitting there thinking, we are never going to fucking sign here. And I was just amazed that I was sitting there taking the meeting. The meeting to me was an act of respect because I didn't want to disrespect that person, but I knew that we were never going to do a deal there. And here's what's really great, and those of you that know this story are going to be able to figure out exactly who I'm talking about. They decided, the head of this label decided to send his second in command to see Cash Money perform live, and the head of A&R at the time. And we kept setting up shows where they could come and hang
Mhm.
out, and I knew that they would be safe and everything would be fine, and they kept missing their flights, or, "Oh, we can't come tomorrow, something came up," and they did this 3 times, and that gave me the excuse that I needed to say, "You know what?
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not even entertaining you anymore." Not that we were gonna entertain them anyway, and the guys kind of felt the same way that I did. And at that point, I think the deal was somewhere around 10 or 15 million.
Mm,
Mm.
So the
yeah.
guys were like, you know what, Wendy, we're rolling with you. Like, we
Right.
trust your judgment. We see how you think. We like how you think.
Right. Yeah. See that.
And we just stopped entertaining them. And when the head of the company called me and said, why aren't I being considered anymore? It's like, because your fucking staff can't get on a plane to go
Right.
see these guys. You're not interested. If you
Right.
were interested, you would act like you're interested and you would have been there. You're treating them like they're country bumpkins. I already know what you think about them. I know how you think. I've
See.
been in the boardrooms.
Mm. See, most people just take the deal though. Like, oh, this we got 10 million. I'm gonna take the deal. That's probably how most people would take it without having
Not
somebody in
me.
the corner that has a vested interest in them as a
Yeah.
person, as an artist, as a person that is working with that individual to make sure they get the best deal possible. Most people will probably take the deal and
Yeah.
say, "Yeah, I know this person may be this type of way, but this is 15 million.
Yeah.
I'm at 15 million, then I'm gonna try to figure out how to do
You
whatever
know
we."
what? You know what I learned coming up? I learned that if there's a guy out there that beats his girlfriend and then I decide that I want to date him, there's a really good chance I'm going to get beat too.
Good chance.
I
Yep,
don't know what that percentage is, but in my head, it's 100%.
For
There's a
sure.
real good chance.
right.
For sure.
So my philosophy is, even if somebody's going to give you 10 million and they don't expect much of you because of how they preconceive who you are,
Right.
you might get 10,000,000, but it's not gonna you're not gonna have longevity.
Mm,
You know, being white, I get in the boardrooms. I hear what people say about artists.
yeah.
I hear it. I know what they say.
That's the thing that most blacks aren't able to get at that level into those spaces, into those boardrooms, to have those
Correct.
conversations, to hear what
Correct.
is actually happening behind the scenes. Which is why it's great to have people. For me, I like having a multi-diverse team. The team that I
I
lead,
do too.
my actual
I need that.
outside of this is mad diverse. And so it makes sense because there may be doors that you may not be able to get into that maybe somebody else can get into.
And there may be ways that you think that
Mm,
I don't. I need different perspectives. I need different opinions. I need different points of view.
mm,
And that is what keeps me sharp and well-rounded and intelligent. And I'm dumbfounded at anybody that doesn't also agree with that.
right.
It sounds like, Wendy, the bottom line is something that we've been saying recently. Figure out what your moral compass is. Figure out what your beliefs are.
Yeah.
Stand on it.
Yeah.
Stand
Stand on it. Don't
Yes.
compromise. It's
Yes.
boss,
Yes.
get boss.
Figure out, it's funny, I'm writing a non-music industry book right now. I just recently started down this journey of figuring out, like, who I am and how to be happy, and I
Mm,
just started a year and a half ago, right? And one of the first things that I did, and I've always had, like, a very strong moral compass, but the first thing I did was figure out my value system, like, what what are my values? What are my core values? What are the things that I'm willing to die for? What am I willing to stand on? And there's a couple of things that were already there, like integrity, but
Mhm.
there were some things there that I didn't know, that I didn't realize. Like my number one thing is knowledge.
mm,
And I love learning stuff, but I would have never known that that was number one, right?
Mhm.
That surprised the shit out of me, you
how did you
know?
find out? How'd you
I figured out what makes me happy. I made a list. I bought a book that listed, and I did it old school. You can do it on the internet, right? But I bought a book that asked me like 100 different questions, different scenarios, you know, if you stuff like if you found a wallet and the man was standing right next to you, would you keep it? If you found a wallet and you couldn't figure out whose it was, would you keep it? If you found a sack of money or an envelope and you saw that it belonged to a bank or an insurance company or somebody you know had insurance on that money, would you keep it? So there's no easy answer to any question, but there's an answer that you know about yourself. And I was able to go through and answer these questions and learn about myself. And then I ranked different values. There's a list of like 60 different values. And I put, okay, what's most important to me? And it would put like two in there, like, which matters more to you, safety or knowledge? Knowledge. Okay, which matters more to you, safety or money? Money. Okay, now which matters more to you, money or knowledge? Knowledge. So by comparing and contrasting, you can kind of figure out what's more important to you, and then you get this really long list of stuff that matters. And once you figure out what matters to you, for me, they say to pick the top 5. I picked the top 10 because I'm just a weirdo overachiever. I figured out the 10 that really mattered to me and I honed in on them, and I made sure that my staff knew, okay, here are my top 5 values. Here are my second top 5 values, right? So
ex-
anytime we're making a decision for this company, this is what we stand on. Integrity is in the top 5.
mm,
Knowledge is in the top 5, you know? I can't remember offhand the other ones that are in the top 5, but if we're making a decision on the direction our company is going, it's going to be knowledge based and it's going to be integrity based because that's what matters the most to me,
right,
right?
right.
It's
You've
good.
got to be in alignment with everything you do because if you're not in alignment, you're going to feel not good. You're going to feel icky about, your life and your job, and things just aren't going to work.
Yeah, the important part, what I like about that is number one, the identification of those values, right? Kind of going through that
Nobody teaches us to do it.
teaches that, right? But going through
No.
those going through those values. I mean, I may do that like if I'm doing like a leadership, like a 3-day leadership workshop, something like that with, uh, executives at an actual company. But within hip hop, no. I mean, I don't.
That's true, but
We don't do
how
that.
can you know what to stand on if you don't know what's important to you?
Exactly.
Exactly.
That's the thing, right?
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
I think what's important is one is the identification of those values, but number two is the communication of those values, right? Communicating that to your team. So now that your team knows what the guiding principles are for your
Yes.
and for the organization, and if they are on board with those, if they are on board with those principles themselves, do they see them principles within themselves to say, yes, my leader has these principles. I see these principles in myself, and we are aligned. And
You got to be aligned.
I don't like to
It,
do.
it's been really great for my company because, and I don't want to go off on this tangent because I know this isn't really what you're asking me, but let me give you an example. I thought it would be really cool to go on a cruise with people in the music industry so that we could all get together and be out like for 5 days on the ocean and just like vibing with each other and talking to each other. And we could bring artists that could do shows and I just thought it was like a really great community builder. And then I mentioned this to my head of content and he pulled out my little, my list of 10 and he went down the list and he's like, "Okay, which value does that solve?" And it didn't solve any. It was just I wanted to go on a cruise and hang out with people from the music industry. And he's like, "Okay, so if you really wanna do this, we can do it, but how much time are we gonna take away from the things that are our priorities in order to do this?" And when I thought about it, I'm like, "Somebody else is gonna have to do this, and I'll just pay to go."
Mm,
Because it doesn't trigger any of my goals or my values in my value system.
mm,
Mm,
Not one of them would be fulfilled by doing that.
mm.
So
That
either I do it in my spare time, but even then, why? There's so many other things that I could do, you know?
but
right.
So I
when
built a community instead.
Oh,
w well, listen, when you finish that book, though, I'm gonna be the first person to get it because I'm interested in that kinda
yeah,
stuff.
me too.
Me too.
I'm interested in, like, really finding the meaning of, like, what I'm trying to do, what make me happy.
Life.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. We
Yes.
do we know we love this culture, we love music,
Mhm.
and we love our family and all that, but beyond that, though, like, that's to me, that's surface level, so
Agreed.
Yeah.
You know, I went on this journey because I used to have 3 emotions: happy, sad, and angry. And when I got sad, it would piss me off that I was crying, so really, I had happy and angry, because
Right.
whenever I got sad, I got mad that I was crying, right? And I realized there have to be more emotions than this, and anytime something would happen, I would just pack down my emotion, pack it down, don't think about it, don't think about it, don't I'll deal with it later, I'm too busy, I'll deal with it later. And then all of a sudden, it's like I would completely overreact at the tiniest thing. Like somebody would butt in line in front of me at the post office, and I would treat it like they just murdered my mother.
Mm,
Mm,
And I didn't know where that was coming from. And I wanted to understand myself better. And then I decided to start going to therapy, right? So that I could be a better me. And as I learned about communication and relationships and all these other things, I realized how decisions that I made based on things that have happened to me in the past
mm,
were triggering and coloring decisions I was making today as an adult. And I'm like, wow, this is such a little thing that didn't really matter, or I thought didn't really matter, but it's changed how I completely view men in relationships.
mm,
mm,
And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm in my 60s and I can't have a relationship with a guy that lasts more than 7 years. Like, what the fuck is my problem? I'm
mm,
around these people that are married 50 years, 60 years, and I'm excited because I can get to 6 years with somebody, you know?"
mm,
I'm realizing how much destruction I was causing myself based on how I was reacting to things and looking at things. And I'm like, "You know what? I wanna be the best me possible. I wanna live in arete." Arete is, it's a Greek word, and it's that level between when you're great and the best you can be. There's a space there,
Mhm.
and most of us don't live in there. I want to. I
Absolutely.
wanna be the best Wendy I can be. That's my goal in life, in
Yeah.
all aspects,
I,
financially, socially, physically, in all aspects of my life. And there's 12 aspects of my life that I've pinpointed, and I've written a business. It's not really called a business plan, but I'm so business minded.
Right.
I wrote a business plan for every aspect of my life. I
Oh,
call it a life book. And now I'm living that. And it's increased my self-esteem exponentially. It's helped my life. I've lost 80 pounds since last December.
oh,
Like
congrats.
I'm doing thank you. I'm doing so many things that make me a better human being. I'm a better friend, I'm a better lover, I'm a better everything. I'm a better human being.
mhm.
And that matters to me. And I
Absolutely.
know who I am, and I'll stand on it.
There you go.
Facts. I like that.
Yep.
I like you got to stand. Hey, but it goes back to identifying those values, right?
Hmm.
Yes.
And
And I'm
that's
happy.
and that's
And
the being
I'm
happy.
happy. I'm just
Being
happy and fulfilled.
Cause you got to enjoy the journey.
you got to.
Yes.
That's the
To.
thing.
Yeah.
Being happy and understanding how you react to certain. So one of the things that we well you already know, B knows, but so I'm a certified 7 habits of highly effective people facilitator, right?
Awesome.
So one of the things that we teach in 7 habits, yeah, I love that. I've been teaching it for a gazillion years, but one of the things we talk about are the 4 dynamics of humans, right? Our ability to be self-aware and our ability to understand our emotions and things like this, right? And we talk about in that course that there's always between the stimulus and the response, there's a space. And in that space is our freedom to choose our emotions, reactions to that stimulus, right? So kind of like
Yeah.
what Wendy said, a person jumps in line in front of her. In that moment, in that space, she has the ability to determine how she's going to respond to that person
Correct.
in that space,
And
right?
and how I receive it.
How
Are they jumping in front of me because they hate me and they're trying to hurt
that
me? No. They're jumping in front of me, either they didn't see me or they're having a bad day
mhm.
it has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're
So
not purposely trying to hurt me,
Yeah.
which of
yeah,
course that's what I
the
thought. Oh my God, you're taking my space.
right. Yeah. So that's the paradigm, right? Because we all live by an incomplete paradigm. I mean, we just don't unless we are open to understanding the other person's position and perspective of things, right? He could have been going through a lot of things that day, right? In that 7 habits course, there's a video that we show and talk about where Stephen Covey is on a subway, and there's a guy that comes onto the subway, and it's him and his children, and the children are running rampant, and the guy just comes off. You can tell he's distressed. He's looking a certain type of way. And Steven says, I could have got mad at him, but I saw what was happening. And people were like, get your kids, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, in that moment, I knew that something was happening. So he was like, you know, can you get your kids or whatever? Like, what's going on? And the guy said, I just came from the hospital. My wife died. And he said, in that moment, in that space, his whole paradigm changed of how he was going to respond to that person's
Yes.
situation that was taking place. But that's what our value systems and our belief systems and things. See, I feel like I'm teaching leadership training right at the moment. Uh,
You
it,
kind of are, because it's what it is. It's like if you want
it
peace
is.
of mind, you have to be able to lead yourself.
Mm,
You
right.
have to be able to decide how you're gonna react to something.
You
If
got
something bad happens in my life, I can choose how to react. I can choose how it's going to affect me. I can choose whether it's gonna devastate me and I'm gonna curl up into a ball and go into a depression for 6 months,
right.
or I can choose to not let it affect me and look at it from a different angle.
And I think that's the thing for all of you watching. You all have a choice. All got the choice. The power is with you in how you respond
Yes.
to the
Yeah.
external world around you, right? If your friends are doing something like this and you're like, hey, that goes against my, you don't got to do it. Peer pressure is
You
a mother.
don't have to do it.
Oh my gosh, it's a mother. But you don't have to do it. I mean, it's all a
Again, it's knowing
choice.
ahead of time, though. It's knowing ahead of time where you stand
That's
before you
right.
go to LA or before you go to that
Right.
studio, before you go
That's
to that
right.
meeting,
Yes.
That's
whatever.
right.
You got to know ahead of time.
Because they're going to, I think it's like what Wendy said, they're going to test the waters.
Yeah.
They're going to see.
Yes.
right? They're gonna see. So okay,
Every deal that I've ever been offered has always been a shitty one first. There's never somebody that's ever said, "Wendy, here is a deal that's amazing," and it was.
mm,
They always start with the worst possible deal, and then you negotiate it to get it up. So
right,
if you're taking the first offer, you're already fucked.
yeah, because it's probably gonna be a crappy deal anyway. So, which is kind of what we talked about
Yeah,
last week. Was it last week? So on the last episode, I think we talked about, which actually is coming out this Thursday, but we talked about why artists are wanting to leave their labels,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And so the latest happens to be
Ari Lennox.
Ari
Yeah,
Lennox. She
Ari
making
Lennox, Coil Ray.
yeah,
Yeah,
right. So they're making these videos and they're talking about why they want to leave their labels, and right, we had there was conversation with Meg Thee Stallion a long time ago. I mean, I think most people in some situation get to a point where they're like, "This is a crappy deal. I'm gonna leave my label for some whatever the
yeah,
reason that may be." Um,
yeah.
that and it's like I think because the deals are crappy in the very beginning, and a lot of people just want to take the deal that they got because it's
They
way
think if they don't take it, they won't get that, like, they're
yeah
missing their opportunity, like another one will never come along.
yeah and especially in like the black community when you come from a space of not having a lot,
yeah.
right, and then somebody
Scarcity.
throws a lot of money in your face, give me that deal. I want that because it's going to take
I
me out.
get that, but I come from scarcity, and I don't take the first deal that comes along. So it truly is it's a mindset. It's a mindset. And granted, I'm entitled because I'm white. I get that. But if I can learn if I can learn that a shitty deal isn't the only thing that's coming to me, anybody can learn it. I'm not smarter than anybody. I'm not better than anybody. If I can learn it, everybody can learn it.
Yeah, I think it's that FOMO. It's like if I don't take this now, another deal may not come around, and I want to take it because I don't
Yeah.
want to have to go through that period of wait and discovery if and work if another deal is gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you mentioned
If a deal is right and if you're in the right position for a deal,
mm,
there's gonna be a bidding war to
mm,
begin with, just so everybody out there knows that. If there's only one label offering you something and nobody else is, it's already suspect. Because is it a tax write-off? Is it
mm,
a favor deal? Those are deals that don't work out anyway. All they do is tie you up. It's funny that you mentioned, Ari and well, I mentioned Koi. The artists that aren't happy, the Megan Thee Stallions, they're the ones that are successful. Imagine all of the ones that never came out and got shelved who are unhappy in their deal. Imagine the ones that have struggled that only have 30,000 fans and they're saying they're not happy, but none of us are hearing it because their following is so small.
They don't have the leverage. Yeah,
right,
like
right,
like Ari Lennox.
Point. That's my point.
Yeah,
We're listening to people that should be millionaires now telling you they're not happy,
mm,
not the people that are thousandaires. So a
right,
lot of people aren't happy and it's because they don't understand what they're getting into. They don't understand what it is before they step on the court to play the game.
mm, mm,
yeah.
You know,
mm,
when we watch, I'm making a lot of sports references, which is funny because I am so not a sports person. But when guys get into the NBA, they already know who all the players are. They know what the game is. They know the history of the game. They know what the rules are. They can see the court. They know what they can do and what they can't do. They know where they're going to win and where they're going to lose. It's not like that in the music industry. A lot of people don't learn the game before they step on the court. They just wanna make music and they wanna perform, and that's it. And they don't learn who the players are. They don't know who the culture vultures are. They don't know what a good deal is versus a bad deal, and the information is out there.
It is.
I've been putting it out there for 32 years.
Yeah.
yeah,
I remember I read a book that kind of changed my whole perception of artists. I think it was by Anita Ambrose. It was about called Blockbuster, and I got it from I think
Oh, God, I love that book.
I got it because you posted the book, and I went and bought it, and it changed my whole view because
mm,
I realized that the labels pretty much prioritize a couple of artists, pretty much,
right,
and everyone unless you're gonna make them a whole lot of money, you're not a priority on the label.
Absolutely not.
But even knowing that, my advice has always been since then, if you're gonna get into a deal, understand where you are and maybe try to like gain some leverage. Try to work
Build lev
right because you're not gonna be a priority. But if people don't know that, they think they got signed, so they're gonna be this big star.
Right.
Not
Yep,
this is. But
yep.
yeah, I mean, when you mentioned that, I thought
It's
about
it's it's heartbreaking to me because I see so many people out here that will approach an artist as like a middleman and say, "Yo, I can get you a deal. You
Mm,
know, come with me. I'll take you to Sony because I got a friend." And what they don't realize is that they have to build leverage first. And I don't understand how they don't see that because I saw that back in the '90s and it's true today. You've got to put music into the marketplace and prove that there's a market for that artist before you take them to get a deal, because getting a deal is not the goal. Having a successful music career is the goal. Getting a deal is just one small step on that path, and that's not even the most important step anymore because you can do everything yourself that a label could do for you, you
yeah,
know?
that's true. I mean, that's absolutely true.
yeah,
You know, that you can. A lot of people
Yep,
don't want. A lot
yeah,
of people because it's work. I mean, you got to work.
it is work.
You got to
It's
work.
work it's work if they sign you too. It's work. It's work no matter what you do,
So,
yeah.
honestly.
might as well put the indie artist. I
It's
mean,
just it's more work if you're signed only because not only do you have to do the work, but you have to convince an entire company to get behind you. So you gotta be a cheerleader and a worker, whereas if you do it yourself, you're making the calls, you're making the decisions. It's just work.
mm,
Hmm.
mm-hmm,
I'd rather do the work than convince somebody as to why they should believe in me to do let me do the work.
Yeah.
right.
And that's why we're here. We're
You're
here
gonna
to.
do the work anyway.
Yeah.
So I know we've been talking for a while. I'm gonna be respectful of your time. I do have a question. So Wendy, you've been in this in hip hop for a long time, right?
32 years.
You've seen a lot of things happen, and now there is a major. And I don't think this was happening, you know, in the golden era of hip hop, but now we got the whole push for using rappers' lyrics in against them. I think we talked about this, and of course it's something that's been ongoing with court cases and things like that. Um, just kind of get your perspective on that, like
This is amazing.
he's
No,
go
it's
ahead, B.
amazing because this is how long the Young Thug trial started.
I know.
The last time I interviewed you on the Free Game podcast, Thug had just got locked up, and that's how long. And that's been 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
He just got out
Just got
last week or whatever.
last week.
So that
This
just
was
shows
last
you
week.
how long. Because I remember I asked you a question similar to this when he first got.
You already know what the answer is, but I love this question. Keep going.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, because we talked about Young Thug coming out and Lil Durk going in. It's like
Yeah, coming in, going up.
one
Yeah,
going in, one coming out. But they're
yeah.
trying to. We kind of talked about you have actors who portray certain roles,
Mhm.
right? Whether it's Scarface or or
Al,
Robert De Niro,
Al
or
Pacino. Yeah,
Goodfellas, with I said Joe. It is Joe Pesci,
Joe
right?
Pesci.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Portraying these roles, but they don't live that in real life, right? And our the thing we've been talking about was if you're going to rap about that type of stuff, at least tell the people that this isn't the lifestyle that you are truly living, that this is entertainment. But we talked
Yeah,
about there are a lot of people who are actually in this life, and I use the phrase, they're criminals who have become rappers, not vice versa, right? They're not rappers who became criminals, but they're criminals.
correct.
They were doing all these activities, and they just became rappers. But long story short, or question short, what are your thoughts on that? Like,
I love that.
use
Um,
lyrics to indict people.
yes, and it happened during the golden era too. It happened to Tupac. He had to defend himself on a
Mm.
murder trial because somebody in well, he was still alive, so, it had to be like around he was alive and not in jail, so before '96, so maybe '94. Somebody had, shot and killed somebody else while listening to a Tupac song, and he said that the song inspired him, which is crazy because I've listened to a lot of rap music and I haven't shot anybody. There's still time. There's this is very near and dear to my heart because I watched Mac get sentenced to something he didn't do, and I'm not telling you anything new. The whole world kinda knew that Mac was not a gangster when he caught his case. Mac is a gangster today, by the way. He came out of prison a completely different person, and I say gangster in a positive way, not a negative way. I may be a gangster groupie, I don't know. But in a world where rappers try so hard to keep it real, whatever that means, announcing on an album that what you're portraying is not authentic would not work because rappers desperately need to be seen as real. I don't know why, but they desperately need that in their lives. So being being considered like Sylvester Stallone or Liam Neeson or any other actor that does illegal shit and gets away with it and then goes home and lives a real life, it's going to be very hard for a rapper to admit that publicly unless he's on trial, in which case they're going to say it in a heartbeat. I have two feelings on this. My first feeling is that no lyric should ever be used against a rapper because you can't they have a right to defend themselves to their peers, and you can't go back in time to where that lyric was created and have the rapper tell you what they were thinking because now they've performed it on stage 7,000 times and it's taken on a whole new meaning, and they may be in a whole new mind state than they were back when they made up that lyric, and really they were just trying to rhyme two words and it sounded good, so they went, yeah, yeah, put it in, put it in. You
Mhm.
know it. And then my second thought is, why the fuck would you take credit for something that you didn't do? Like why would you even think to put something on a song that you didn't do? That's something somebody else did. Make a song about somebody else. Why say I? You know, I had a client, his name was Fulio, and Fulio was based in Jacksonville. And I put Fulio in the studio for the first time. And I started him when he was at maybe 2,000 followers on Instagram. And we moved him out of Jacksonville because he had a problem with rivals. They were trying to kill each other, right? But Fulio was not a gangster at that point in time. He was kind of a mama's boy, to be honest. And he realized that by talking about this beef online, he could get attention. And he confused attention with fan fandom or support.
Mhm.
He thought that if everybody knew about him, he was such a dope rapper that they would support his music. So they were coming in to watch him troll, but they weren't really paying attention to the music the way the numbers showed that they should have. And after a while, both me and his investor couldn't work with him anymore because people were actually getting shot and killed based on what he was portraying about himself that was not true. His
Mm,
mom came out of her front door and got shot 7 times. She had to teach herself how to walk all over again
crazy,
because of the beef that he had and that his ops couldn't get to him, so they found his mom instead.
crazy.
He eventually died at
Yeah,
26 years old
we
because of
all
he lived,
yeah,
Wow.
you know? And I just don't understand that. And that's the same mentality as somebody that's gonna say something in a song that's gonna be used against them in court. Like, why would you even do that to begin with? But if you're stupid enough to do that, I don't think you should be prosecuted for that. I think you should people should see who you really are as a human being and then make a decision as to whether you're guilty or not.
Mm.
So that's how I feel.
I think that's tough for me because authenticity is important,
Mhm.
but you can be authentic and speak with an authority. Like, for example, I like 21 Savage. I like his music. I work out to it. Um, I would hope that he's not doing what he's talking about in his music now, right? But
Right.
the question is it authentic? Is it coming from a place? Does he know what he's talking about? Has he been through? Maybe he's been through it before. I don't want him to do it now. I don't want him to walk anybody down now,
Right.
at all.
Period.
Period. But I love that song. But I do believe he's speaking from an authentic place.
Mm.
So it's like,
Right.
should they have the right to? If you came from that life, I used to be a shooter. I
I'd
used
like to think I'd like to think hip hop has saved a lot of people. I know a lot of lives that have been changed by music, Thug being one of them.
So
Mm.
do they have?
His life was changed by the music industry.
So does he have a right to talk about with authority, with authenticity about that life, even though he doesn't live it now, or does he have to live it now? That's where I come from.
Does he have the right? He certainly does. He has the right to talk about anything that he wants because of freedom of speech.
Right.
What he doesn't have the right to do is scream fire in a crowded theater. So if he's doing something where he's endangering people with those lyrics, then he shouldn't be allowed to do it. But that's not what they were complaining about. They weren't saying he was endangering anybody. They were saying he told the story that led to police work that uncovered, actually it didn't lead to police work, they were using it as police work,
Mm.
Yeah,
that uncovered when Nut got killed. That's really what they were saying. They were saying they should be able to use a piece of a song that outlined the telling of the murder of somebody.
Mm.
got you.
Yeah, and that's the we want to use your
It
lyric.
shouldn't take the place of police work.
Right. It should not. It should not.
It should.
Because it doesn't mean just because it's something that's in a song that they're
Right.
talking about, it doesn't mean admission.
Okay, that's my last
If he
question.
did it, prove it. All I'm
Yeah.
going to say is if he did it,
Right.
prove it. If he did it, prove it.
You prove it.
It's my very last question. But on that point, do you think there's a potential shift where there'll be more of a balance in hip hop, where there'll be more of because back in the day you had positive hip hop that reached the charts that sold a lot of like
It's
hits. Play. So do you think it's coming back now? Because
It's coming. The pendulum it always does. The pendulum always swings. We went through an era of, like, slowed down, I call it opioid rap. Other
yeah,
people call it mumble rap. We went through a period where so many people were just popping pills
Mhm.
that it got slow and sloppy, and people couldn't form words properly because they were too high. Um, there's always a reaction when something swings one way, it always kind of swings back. It has for the I've been listening to hip hop since 1980. So every 5 or 6 years it changes. So if you don't like the music today, just wait 5 years, it's going to change. I work with a lot of up and coming underground artists, and it's getting more positive, it's getting more Kendrick Lamar-ish, if you will.
hmm,
It's
gotcha.
just it's changing.
Good.
It's changing. It's getting a little faster paced, a little more upbeat. You can
Mm.
thank COVID for that. A lot of people came out of COVID and, cared. The number one I'm a huge research geek, as you guys probably know.
Yeah.
The number one thing that the largest market for hip hop music, their number one concern in the world is mental health.
Mhm.
So
Mm,
if the biggest market cares about mental health and you're talking about negativity and things that hurt mental health, you're fucking yourself
Right.
because your biggest portion of the market doesn't want to hear that anymore.
No, that's true. I
good
I
stuff.
I I agree with that. I was telling we were saying that the other day. I was like, I don't want to hear that. I'd rather
Yep.
hear.
You know who I really respect and I'm watching, and this might be a little self-serving because I went through the same thing that he's going through or went through. We went through it at the same time, but we don't know each other, and that's Russ. I'm watching Russ talk about mental health. I'm watching Russ talk about self-esteem
Yep.
and being secure with himself and not caring whether people like his music or not. Whereas, if somebody said they didn't like a song a couple years ago, it would ruin his whole day and he can't go out on tour because, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
he talks about his journey. I've seen him do it on Jay Shetty. I've seen him do it on a bunch of different interviews.
Watch.
And I'm watching like, oh my God, he's so much younger than me. Like, he could be my kid. But we're going through the exact same mental shit at the exact same time and we don't know each other.
Oh
Like,
wow.
how is that even possible? but I'm watching him now open on arena tours. In fact, he's on tour right now in Europe. I'm watching him do songs with guys like Ed Sheeran.
Yeah.
So he's becoming a superstar based on changing how he thinks and how he reacts and how he perceives
Right.
and the positive message that he's giving people, whether it's in his music or his interviews, it's positive as fuck and it's working,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
you know? I I'm sorry.
No, no, no. Go ahead.
I watched him on stage in Montreal, and there was a young woman that held up a sign, and I forget what the sign said, but it was something that really resonated with him. It's something that he's been preaching, and she was basically saying, "I hear you." She was spitting back something that he had said, and he stopped mid-song because he saw the sign, and he just stopped, and then he hit a knee, like he went down,
Mm,
and you could see it was so genuine and so real and so authentic. And then he had to cover his eyes because he started to cry. And
Mm,
then he realized, oh my God, I'm in front of like 17,000 people. This
right.
is not the moment. And he got back up and he started like right in again. And the crowd went fucking nuts. And
Mm,
I'm sitting here watching it on I don't remember where I saw it, YouTube or wherever. And I was like, oh my God, I would die for this man.
mm,
Like he's got a fan for life. And all I've ever done is read his books. I've listened to a couple songs, but I was never really a Russ fan. And oh my God, I'm such a like hardcore fan now of him as a human being
right. Wow. Yeah.
because I've watched his journey and I've watched his authenticity. Old Russ would have never done that. He wouldn't have seen the sign. He wouldn't have read the sign because he was too busy in his head, you know, with what was going on. How's the fan reacting to me? Does my shirt fit? Do I look good? Are they liking this lyric? He was just in a different space.
that's good.
Yes. Self awareness
And
is.
now he's just fucking amazing. He's mindful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's somebody I watch all the time
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
glean from his books
I
and stuff.
love him. I would
Self.
fight for him. And I don't know him. I've never met him. I would fight for him. Like for real.
Yeah. See, that's when you know you have a person that you have a connection with, even though you never met that person. Right.
Yes.
Isn't that the
Yeah.
goal for artists though, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the goal.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
Yeah.
Right there. That is
Yeah.
what you just said is the goal for
Yeah.
artists around the world. Right.
Connection.
That's
And
right.
he did it being himself.
That's right. No,
What a
that's
concept.
that's what I
Good.
was saying. Self awareness leads to growth. Right. It
Yeah.
absolutely growth. Um,
Yes.
I did a whole review on Russ's book. Make sure y'all check it out. It's on the platform right now. I did a whole review of Russ's book.
Yeah, a new book
Uh,
just came out too.
yeah. Oh, you got a new one?
Yep.
I guess I got to read that and do another
Yeah.
review.
It's awesome. It's got a little mirror on the front. It's got a little
I got
reflective thing on the front so that,
eyes. Look back at
so
you.
if you're into it, do the audiobook because his music is in it.
Oh,
Like
that's
every chapter starts with a little snippet, like a 30-second snippet of a song that he feels where that song like fits that chapter.
hmm.
So do the audiobook
I'm
of
at
the
the,
new Rest book.
I
It's
got Audible.
awesome.
I got
Yeah,
Audible. I
for
got to do
sure.
that.
There you go. There you
Okay.
go.
So I have two last. I don't know if you have any more
I'm done.
questions,
I'm
but
done.
I have two last questions.
Go
Uh,
for it.
well, let me make sure I got two last questions. Because I already asked one. Let me check my notes. I think that was the one question that I had. Okay, so you mentioned no. I want. Okay, yes. So the question is kind of what you were talking about. Be with um, talking about prior the shift, the balance
Hmm.
within hip hop. Not so much the person himself, but the message that he's currently communicating. Uh, D1, right? So D1 right now is on
I
a
love him.
he is on like a run,
He's
a,
on a
to-
mission.
a mission right now to
He's on
talk
a
about
mission.
the toxicity that
Mhm.
currently lives. We kind of talked about this in the last. That's where the 21 Savage thing comes from, right? But we kind of talked about in the last episode of the podcast about just his message of toxicity being within the hip hop culture and what it's doing to the culture right now. And I just wanted to get your perspective on the message and the impact that that message is having within the hip hop community.
First of all, I love his message. I have to tell you that I am not a religious person at all. In fact, I'm probably agnostic. So I don't resonate with the religious meaning, but I
Mm,
do resonate with the spiritual, message, and I resonate with him living his truth. He has taken a beating for what he believes in, and he does not care, and I love that. He's speaking his truth. He has not wavered. He's extremely intelligent. He's very mindful in how he's doing this. He's hearing people make fun of him, but he's instead of coming back and dissing them back, he's coming back with intelligence and a high emotional quotient. I think that he's really impacting people that follow him, and I think what he's doing is showing the world that it's okay to stand up for what you believe in. And it's something that I've done my whole career. You guys have heard me out here being pro indie, pro indie, pro indie long before it was popular to be indie. I saw it coming. I saw it going this way. I still see it going this way. It's going to go more this way. And he sees the same thing in terms of positivity. He sees the same thing in terms of lyrics, and he's willing to take a beating for it. He's willing to die for it. And I love that. I think it's amazing. I think that, first of all, he's right. I wish that Tupac were still alive because Tupac very privately believed that lyrics influence people. And he realized it when he saw little 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds singing along to his lyrics and getting every word right. And he realized that he was getting into the subconscious of those kids. And while they may not believe kill, 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 all women are whores
Mm.
at 3, at some point they were going to start to understand those words, and it was going to become part of their lexicon and part of their belief system. And that's why he made songs like Brenda Has a Baby and, the song about his mom, Dear Mama. And I think that D1 has influence. He doesn't have as much influence as like a Kendrick Lamar or a J. Cole or a Drake, but he's chosen to use the influence that he has to get that message across, whether it destroyed his career or helped his career. He's not doing it for clout. He's
Mhm.
doing it because he believes in it and he had a platform. This is a man who teaches at Harvard University.
Mhm.
He's extremely intelligent and he didn't care. Like, if people beat the shit out of him over this, he would take the beating. If it destroyed his career, he would take that. What's great is that it hasn't. He's been able to handle himself beautifully. He's been able to make his point without swinging on anybody. I don't know that I could have done what he's done. I'd like to think that I could, but I don't know. I've never been tested to the level that he is being tested. And people are hearing him and they're listening to him. And the people that can be swayed or swayed. Not everybody will be swayed, and that's okay. Because if he changes one person's lyrics, he's won. And he's changed way more than one. Way, way, way more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I support him wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
And while we're on the subject, Trey the Truth, I support him wholeheartedly too.
Oh
For
yeah,
sure.
Trade the
Because
Truth.
he's helped more people than Trey. Like, seriously. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck? What he does is amazing. He is a hero.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. I
Okay,
agree.
I'm off my soapbox. I'll put it
No,
away now.
Hey,
and
the
Slide it on over there and put it under my desk.
I'm with the positives. I'm with the D1 thing. I just think the rappers should have a right to
yeah,
rap
of
about this
course
stuff, but they
they
should be able.
should.
But I'm glad the discussion's taking place because rappers either got to say, you know what, I'm not rapping about this stuff no more. I'm a phony, or say, you know,
Well, only if they believe that should they do that.
because
If they don't believe that, they should then it's fake,
yeah,
right?
exactly. I want to expose the fake. Or rappers can say like 21 Savage. They say, you know what? I don't live that. I'm from that life, but I'm not living it now. But I'm from that. I'm authentic. Don't question my authenticity.
Right.
But please put the guns down. Because I remember he tweeted last year, "Hey, put the guns down. Somebody got killed." And everybody was like, "Who are you to say put the guns down?" Artist. And he's like, "Look, man. Just because I make these songs, I mean I want y'all to go out and kill people. You know,
Right.
put the guns down."
Exactly.
So I
Exactly.
don't know.
He's
It's
also older now. Like, the 21 Savage that came out in 2016, is different than the 21 Savage in 2024. Like, we can't expect people to live in a bubble and just stay frozen in time.
Right.
Right.
He's gonna grow.
I
He's
mean,
got a lot to lose right now. I don't think he's out capping people. I'm sorry, I just don't.
self awareness leads to grow, right?
Yeah.
It leads to grow, and people grow and mature. You know what I'm saying? So you got to leave room and space for people to be able to do that. Um, okay, last question. Always a question I always ask. What advice would you give to anyone that is trying to get into this music space? Like, what would you tell them? And I know you've been telling them a lot for years.
Yeah, yeah. Learn as much as you can.
Or
Learn from everybody. I'm sorry?
no, I thought
No, I was gonna say press rewind because the last
that's
hour and
true.
so much she told y'all what to do.
I know, right? So in summation, learn as much as you can. Like, if I had to tell up and coming artists one thing and that's all I was allowed to tell them, this would be it. Learn as much as you can. Learn as much as you can about the music industry, learn as much as you can about yourself, learn as much as you can about the people in the industry. Just learn the game. Don't step on the court without knowing the rules of the game, which ones you can break, which ones you can't break. Just learn as much as you can. It's not as easy as you think it is as somebody on the outside of the inner circle looking in, because it's not an industry that was set up for you to be able to pierce it and see how it works. You've got to actually make some effort. So listen to as many people out here that are giving advice. You'll be able to figure out in your gut who's real and who's not. And listen to the folks, like, listen to everybody and then hone in on the ones that you think are real and genuine and telling you stuff because they want you to win, as opposed to the ones that are just out here trying to hit a lick and make some money.
Facts.
There you have it.
That would be my advice.
There you go. There you
Yep.
go, ladies and gentlemen.
Can I thank you guys for doing this? Because I know there's no money in this. Like, I know what you're
Oh,
doing. I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing, and I'm so appreciative of what you're doing.
I
Like,
appreciate
this means the world, and I'm so incredibly thankful that you exist. Keep it
it.
up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're thankful. I'm particularly
I'm
thankful.
thankful. I'm
I'm very,
thankful.
very thankful. You know,
So this was something that was envisioned a long time ago because I believe one of my values is providing a platform for people. I'm a connector. I like connecting people. I like giving people a
You're
space.
also an educator.
I am absolutely an educator.
Mhm.
Like that is
I
probably
say
number one. Knowledge and education is absolutely high on my value list. I mean,
I love it.
that's what I do for a living. So, matter
I
of fact,
love
I got a class on teaching leaders, young hypos, right? You call them hypos, high potential leaders, preparing them for leadership. I got a part two to this thing on Wednesday that I got to teach them. But
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, it's called preparing for leadership. So, like, before you get into a leadership, right? And I was talking, okay, so let me go back. So, it's a class that is in preparation for a leadership role. You're not necessarily in a leadership role today, but what does it take to be an effective leader? What are all those encompassing things that you need to be aware of in order to make the decision? That's what the class is about, to make the decision if you want to be in a formal leadership role. Now,
Position. Yeah. I love
right.
that.
So that's what this class is. And I've had many people who will go, I don't want to be a leader. I got to do all that. I don't want to be a leader. Or I got to do all that. Absolutely. I'm
Count
sign
me
me up.
in. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, sign me up for it. And
And
so
then there's some people that are just natural born leaders. They can't
that's one
help it.
leader. That's right. So I had his name is Derek Jackson. He is the president of NCEG, the National Collegiate Entertainers Group at Georgia State.
Okay.
I think he's at Georgia State. But I've had him on here as a co-host a couple times. Matter of fact, he wants to come back, but had him as a co-host here as a couple times. So I said, what if y'all did that? What if we had like a preparing for musicianship or preparing to be a rapper type course
Mhm.
that people go through that prepare them to be a rapper, and then they can make the decision: do I want to be an artist or not? Based upon all this stuff, kind of like what we were. It was akin to Scared Straight. Like, this is what it really is, right? It was akin to a
It's like
Scared
scared straight for rappers. I love it.
yeah, Scared Straight for rappers, so we
I
need
love
to
it.
have
That's
something.
I
funny.
love it.
Funny.
But Wendy,
That's
thank you
so
very
awesome.
thank you very much
We
for being
appreciate
here.
you. We love you, and keep
Yes.
doing. And we're gonna
Thank you
follow
so much.
everything you
I
do.
I I I can't stop. I can't help it. I
Yeah,
can't.
don't
Yeah.
stop. Don't stop. We greatly appreciate it. I appreciate it. B appreciates it. This is his third time. This is my first time. So
Yeah, I
I
feel
love
blessed.
it.
I interviewed Wendy Day 3 times, so
yeah,
it's a blessing.
I feel blessed as well. Like, I would love to have Wendy back.
Okay, work up to the 4. Work up to
Yep.
4.
Do it.
I'm working. I'm working.
So,
I
Wendy,
love speaking with you. Your graphics are insane, by the way.
well,
I'm
thank you.
gonna I'm gonna make my team step it up a notch because your graphics are gorgeous.
Well, thank you. It's one of them hats that you got to wear as an indie person.
Entrepreneur. Yes.
I could have somebody do it, but I said, you know what? I know how to do it myself. Let me just go and do it myself.
And it
So,
looks great, so keep it up.
well, thank you. Appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much for tuning in. We got the
Thank you.
amazing Wendy Day,
And I'm Brian Onrea.
Brian Onrea, B. Vaughan. You have a good night. Peace.
Thank you.